Hey!
Hello!
Everybody, how's it going?
Hi, people.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining us today for our signing of this big, beautiful poster for Shin, Megami, Tensei 5.
Glorious.
I'm Sissy Jones. I play the golden angel of murder, Abdiel.
Typecasting.
Typecasting.
I'm Armin Taylor, and I play the lion dog Hayataro. If you're on this, going this way, because that's how things work.
Who I've actually been running into a lot in the game.
Nice.
And it's great. I love whenever like it's the stationary stuff and I click on it and you're just like, hey.
What's up? You know what that means?
Those are my favorite lines to record too. Hi, I'm Ryan Colt Levy, and I play this green dude right here. I can't do the thing with that guy. Wow, my brain really hurt on that process. Well, let's I'm gonna crack this coffee as well.
Damon and Casey were going to be here today, but they had unforeseen circumstances and had to back out. But these will be signed by them for those of you that bought them. So don't worry, you're not only getting us. You're getting.
Yeah, I think they're going to come in and do it. Another one of these with the two of them or something. So, but they'll tell you about that.
Yes.
So it's just the three of us for now.
It is, but we're going to get started.
Hi.
Hi, friends.
How do I get this bigger? Because I cannot read.
I know.
Hi, Kitty Gundam.
Hi.
Hi, Kitty Cat Gundam.
Hello.
Hey,
And
hi.
Kinesia. Hello.
Yo,
Thank you.
look,
Kinesia.
Oh my gosh, thank you for hanging out, y'all.
Yeah.
How's your day going?
Yeah, good. All right. I'm gonna
Gold on gold.
Yeah, I'm gonna just, yep. There we go.
Oh, you went for the gold on gold? Yeah. Listen, sometimes it works.
Sometimes
it
my
does.
brain functions and sometimes it doesn't.
I was doing that thing recently where I didn't even see that they gave us this giant bucket of markers.
So when I was like,
oh
what
my
marker do you
God.
want? I was like, this.
Oh,
That's hysterical. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's like color coordinated.
That's so funny. That's actually I totally need to jump on something like that. Mostly, and you did the thing last time at the other signing that was brilliant, which was you had the rack that you bought
Oh yeah.
that like to display the prints on it. Oh, so smart.
Yeah, I know. I have all these wonderful Owl House prints. Like I have, I know this is a Shin Megami Tensei thing, but I have these like awesome fan-made Owl House prints, and then this one is from Luz Batista, who works on the show, and all this amazingness.
So cool.
So I just wanted people to be able to see them because there's some good ones. Do you want to pass those down here?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can just get this party started.
I'm also in the game the one of the two angels that narrates the beginning, which was a fun little.
Yeah, you're literally like the second voice you hear in the game, if not the first. Yeah.
It's like
We need to write a number on the back of that.
Yes, I will. This one is for Kimberly.
This is for
So
Kimberly.
thank you, Kimberly.
Thanks, Kimberly.
Kimberly,
Bless your face.
Bless your face.
and maybe the rest of
And
you.
this one is from Matthew. Matthew, hello. Thank you so
Matthew.
much. We hope you're enjoying the game. We were just
Yes.
talking about how so many times, people want to know about what we think about certain scenes in the game and everything else, and like what we thought about a character responding to us in a certain way. And most of the time we don't know because we
Yes.
record completely separately and we have no idea what's happening.
I'll be honest though, I am such a dork that I watch and play most of these things. Like I am.
Oh, for sure.
Bless you.
Yes.
I am easily, but to be fair, I'm single and have a lot of time to myself when I'm not working. So I play a lot of video games. I was literally getting. I think I'm up to hour 60 in Shin Megami right now.
Get there.
And I just ran into like our whole group of the Bethel gang.
Oh,
So
nice.
Okay, but on a scale of 1 to terrified, how do you feel about this one?
like throughout the whole game, you know what? Recently, actually, I just fought you and you whooped my butt the first time.
I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, you were.
Don't mean to emasculate you, but well, Oh, people are saying.
What kind of coffee do I have? It is La Colombe coffee with oat milk and a little bit of vanilla. Not sponsored, but they gave it to us here, so thank you.
Guys, it's the Smartest Morons happy birthday, and I don't know your real name, so I'm sorry for calling you the Smartest Moron, but happy birthday!
Happy
That's
birthday!
so exciting! I hope this is a good birthday present for you.
Happy birthday! Oh my gosh!
I feel so honored.
Thanks for coming and spending your birthday with us.
So fun.
It's so weird how it's still
Hi,
like,
Liz. How are you, friend? Guys, Liz is my friend online, and they are amazing.
hello.
Oh, nice.
Brand.
I love when people in the chat actually give love to each other
I
in the
know,
chat.
I know.
That's one of my favorite things because I've noticed, like, even in my own personal like live stream things that I've done, so many people make new friends that way.
I know.
And it's, you know, because we're all into the same stuff. Like, why not connect?
I know. I think that's been one of the coolest things about the Owl House fandom is like they've kind of met each other online and then they become friends, and it's so cool.
Yeah.
I love it when that happens. Like, I'm a big fan of my people becoming people.
Right. Yeah.
Makes me really happy. Yay. So what does your guy do in this, Armin? Is he a good guy, bad guy?
I'm a good guy.
Dog guy.
I am.
He's not just good guy, he's good doggo.
I'm a good dog.
Oh,
14 out of
good
10.
dog.
Yeah, 14 out of 10 for sure.
Which is what I've been signing on. 14 out of 10, good doggo. I am Mark Whitten's character's like protective demon that like
Okay.
aligns with him.
Okay. That's cool. Mark Whitten. I haven't seen that guy in ages.
Yeah.
How is
He's kicking butt, by the way.
he good? I love it when my friends do well.
There's one of my favorite things about the remote recording that's happened is so many wonderful people have been doing such cool work that I wouldn't normally get to do a lot of things, and I'm getting to find out about so many new people as well because of it, and like
Yeah.
it's so inspiring.
It is, and it's cool. Like, I've met more people, you know, so that when I actually meet them in person, I'm like, oh, you're the one
Yeah.
with the box in the background in the thing. Hi. It's really cool.
Well, you know what's funny is I wish more people, for that reason, I wish more people had their real pictures on their profiles, so
Oh
that
my
when I
God,
meet
yeah.
them in person, I can actually be like, oh my god, it's you!
You're the one.
Yeah.
You're the thing. Hello.
Because often I, like we see the usernames like over and over again in
Yeah.
comments or whatever, and it's like they become like people in your life so
Yeah.
often that you want to actually.
I know.
I-
I know.
There's one amazing fan who I have on Twitter who like has interacted with me a ton, and one day I wanted to wish her like a happy birthday because it was her birthday, and then I was like, I actually don't know your name. Like, I know your name. We interact all the time. I've got your, I can see your handle in my head, but I actually don't know what your name is, and I'm not just gonna say like happy birthday
Happy birthday, handle.
handle.
Some of my favorite when I did some of my individual streamly things would be some people just like didn't want their own name put on it,
Sure.
so would just say no one. And
Yeah.
like, it was just like the default thing, and I would be
Yeah.
like, whoever no one is, I love you,
Nice.
thank you.
Damn,
To
no.
no one.
Also, don't sell this on eBay. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
seriously.
Or do whatever. I don't know, man.
This art, by the way, is so cool. I
It's so
love this
great.
cover.
I know, like it was one of those things where like I had seen the art from my character, but I hadn't seen the rest of it. And then when I saw this, it was up to me,
Well, it was that thing too. Like none of us knew we were going to be on the cover, right?
Oh yeah.
that was pretty shocking.
It was also interesting because like my character, the Hayataro, was like the bigger character I do in it, but just the way that worked out the recording, we just fell right in the pocket and just knocked it out in a few minutes, and we spent most of the time
Doing
on
the
the
other
narration in the beginning because it was all like had to be timed up and it was like kind of awkwardly paced. So like I thought the main thing I did was the narrator, and they're like, oh no, that was actually like minor compared to Hayataro. I was
That's
like, oh,
so funny. Did Hayataro? Because I haven't gotten up to. I don't. No, I have. There was one cutscene I got to with Hayataro.
Guys, Zara's here. Hi, Zara. We were just talking
Zara!
about you.
Zara!
Zara.
He has a very loud voice. It's very
Yes.
piercing.
Zara, I'm jealous because I didn't get to meet you in person yet, and they did. So
Listen,
just saying. Just saying.
we'll have to remedy that at some point. That's the thing. If all of you on the chat don't know Zara Fuzzle, she is a tremendous voice actress. She's done like every animated show ever. She's in
Seriously.
Amphibia, and she's the
Young
voice
Justice.
of the Young Justice. She's the voice of the
So
computer and Lost in Space. And
Oh,
she's
yeah.
just
Wait,
an
what?
all
I didn't even know
around,
that.
right? All around dope lady. I'm trying not to swear. Potty mouth, and I don't know who's on here. So she's dope. Follow her. She's amazing.
Zara, we will absolutely. We will remedy this. Thank you for hanging with us. That's so sweet of you.
I know.
it's like been a weird blur that we're already in the weekend again because the long weekends always throw me off.
Oh yeah, completely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like, wait, I'm done with the week.
I never really like. There was actually a very strong amount of time during this whole like when we were like full on in lockdown that I was only going by like date numbered days. Like I'd be like, oh, it's like 11/14 or whatever,
Right.
you know, like.
Yeah.
And I had to make a realization like, no, you have to know what day it is because suddenly you're just like, wait, it's Saturday? Like,
Yeah.
I know.
Well, there was a period in the pandemic where I definitely wake up on Saturday and be like, I'm stressing out. I don't have any sessions today. So I was like, oh, right, because it's the weekend.
yeah, because why didn't I get any emails?
Because
It's,
you-
it's
Yeah,
10:30.
exactly.
Like, what's going on? Yeah.
I think I took Sissy and I have the same agent, and I think one day I like texted and was like, up to ask him something. He's like, hope you're having a good weekend. I was like, oh, yeah, it's the weekend.
And
That's
there's
good.
that. Will.
Wow.
I'm gonna sign a couple of Owl House things if that's okay.
Yeah, of
If you guys
course.
don't mind.
It would.
So I've got this sweet little thing designed by Luis Baptista.
It's so good.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Lilith and Luis. And Hootie, let's be honest.
Have either of you gotten to play this at all yet? Because
I'm not.
it is seriously like have you played? Are you in general? Do you play JRPGs? Is that your type of game or is it?
I am a terrible voice actor for games because I barely ever play, and the ones I tend to play are like I play a lot of as you know, a lot of dungeons or
Dragons.
Dungeons and Dragons. Yes.
Dungeons
No,
and
like
Metroidvania.
like
stuff.
Metroidvania
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah,
Oh, dude.
I love the platformers.
Hollow Knight's my favorite game of all time.
Hollow Knight's
Yeah.
fantastic.
We're gonna make this a Hollow Knight stream.
Hollow Notes.
Hollow Notes is the best game of all time.
Yeah.
I
It was
look,
there in the 80s.
Yes.
you know, the thing about Hollow Notes is I didn't respect them enough as a kid.
Ah,
And I got older and was like, all of these songs are jams.
Totally.
All of
They're
them are
bops,
jams.
yeah.
Yeah, like not only are they like really catchy, but like dudes can sing. Like
Yeah.
like they're actually sophisticated pop songs. You know,
Yeah.
when you listen to the arrangements, it's so funny how I don't know if you guys are the same way, but I feel like for me and a lot of people I knew when we were younger, there was this you felt like your identity was so locked into whatever it was that you liked, you know,
yeah,
to a point where like you couldn't have this like wide breadth of things that you enjoyed because it was like it would blend your identity in a weird way. So you
Right,
have to
right.
like pick this over this kind of thing. And like with music, it would be like, you know, rock and roll over pop music or whatever.
Right.
And you lost out on so much stuff because you had to be reductive about it for some reason, you know.
I was just a big old nerd, so I didn't really have any guises to keep up. I love this print so much. This was done by Isabolical on Twitter, and it's just
I need to reach out to this person. Oh my gosh.
amazing and dark and glorious.
There's so much detail.
I know, it's incredible. She's just an incredible artist. The fandoms for all the things just continuously blow my mind.
Oh my
Thank
God.
you, Zara. We love you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hootie supremacy.
yes.
I was-
Hootie.
I was just digesting that.
Hootie is the house demon
Ah,
in the
yes.
Owl House. So my best friend was out the other day. You guys will appreciate this. Anybody who watches the show, my best friend was out the other day getting her like number to go do a 5K or whatever, and she was wearing a Bad Girl Coven T-shirt that I'd given her, and somebody walked up to her and said, "Oh my God, are you an Owl House fan? Do you watch the Owl House?" And she was like, my best friend's on the show," and they were like,
Amazing.
"Who is she?" And she goes, "Obviously an owl," and walked away. I do not play an owl. I play a witch. There was actually one owl on the show.
Well, and your friend was
Also
like,
good.
your friend's like panic reaction internally was probably like, okay, owl or house, owl or house. She's one of the houses.
It's so funny. She was like, "Just put out a note to Instagram and tell them whoever it is. I'm sorry I didn't know.
That's
Bad
amazing.
friend." I'm like, This is for Allie. This was drawn by Dana Terrace, who's the creator of the show. Allie, thank you for loving these two sisters as much as I do.
I also have some randoms in JoJo Bizarre Adventure. Prince.
Wait, flash that off some more.
What's up?
Yeah.
Look at this.
I mean, speaking of,
Yeah,
is anybody watching the new season? I just started to watch it.
Oh, how was it?
It's phenomenal.
How is Kira?
Oh my god, Kira's amazing. Tiana's amazing. Casey's amazing.
So all of the amazing people we know are amazing.
Everybody.
Yes, yeah.
There's some other people that I'm
How dare they be so
spacing
consistent?
on right now, but it's an unbelievably cool dub.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I too am a nerd.
What? No.
It's so trippy to me that we live in this landscape now, though, as creative people and as fans, because when we grew up, you couldn't even find a T-shirt. If you wanted a Spider-Man T-shirt, it was
Right.
impossible to find. Let
Yeah.
alone would you feel safe wearing it in public.
Yeah. Where'd you grow up? New York, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there were comic shops and things, but it was so few and far between in the cultural
Oh,
hot
sure,
spots.
yeah.
And only now do I feel like we're at a point where, thanks to whether it's the Marvel movies at first kind of breaking the glass ceiling and then everything else kind of rolling in, but now when I went to Comic-Con last month, it was so clear that anime is also just like taking over the world, and like we're here now where people can just be proud of things that they love.
Yeah.
I love that. Like I do love that. Like we were saying earlier, the social media and stuff like that has given people who might have felt a little disparate earlier a way to find their tribes.
Oh my god, yeah.
It's like you don't have to hide whatever. Just go out and find whoever like agrees and loves the same stuff that you do.
Well, I mean, perfect example is we're friends. Like we wouldn't know each other. I don't think the three of us would have known each other, or even living in the same city. And
For sure.
it's
It is a city of like 13 million people. Let's be fair about that.
yeah, but it's just
There's no way I'm driving to your house and
Yeah,
rush
that's
hour
for
traffic.
but it's that weird thing where there's
That's like transcontinental.
that's the most LA thing. Yeah,
It took me less time to fly to Seattle than it does to.
Not wrong.
that's amazing.
Not wrong.
But all joking aside, and to prove your point about how not wrong that is, I'm from Seattle. My parents came down when I first moved here. So I came down one weekend, and they came in on like a Friday flight that landed at like 6 o'clock in Burbank. And I lived I lived not in Burbank at the time. Still don't live in Burbank. I've never lived in Burbank. But
It's like, yeah, that's
I left because I did like waves, and it was like, oh, it's gonna take me a really long time. I left about 15 minutes after they took off, and they got to the airport before I did.
Yeah.
Because I went up Laurel Canyon.
Yeah.
Traffic was terrible.
Yeah.
Things got shut down. It took me 2.5 hours in
Yeah.
rush hour. And I was
Dang.
like, they showed up, and I was like, are you glad to see us? I was like, no.
We're
Love you
staying right here
guys.
tonight.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the thing about like working from home, right? Is I remember going to a session in Santa Monica. The session started at 3. It was a quick session. I finished at 3:05, and it took me 2.5 hours to get home.
Yep.
And I was like,
Well, talk about the beauty of remote recording. I had a couple of things recently where, because I don't drive, if I have to go to a studio, unless it's ones by me that I can walk to, I have to Uber to the faraway ones. And with the prices being exorbitant right now, it's intense.
Yeah.
So like, unless it's a long session guaranteed, I'm like, can we do it?
Yeah.
really good
I can't afford to
I also find my I love going in when we can.
Oh, of course.
But if they're like, hey, it's just like 2 lines, it's just a
Yeah,
pickup. I'm like,
15 minutes. Yeah.
can we not?
Yeah.
Like, I've now gotten so spoiled. I'm like, I could just pop in and out. And the cat will be there. It'll be great.
I know.
It's like, you don't want to see me in my pajamas.
However, like when it's like the screamy, yelly stuff, and it's like, hold on, that one peaked. I gotta drop the volume on my microphone so it doesn't blow everything out. Okay, thank you. Like that just. This is for Megan. Thank you, Megan.
I can't tell if the chat auto scrolls or if we're supposed to scroll it, and I just don't want to I want to make sure I'm not losing anybody in there, but I think we're good.
It appears to auto scroll.
I'm gonna get so hyper caffeinated through this thing gradually that I'm just gonna be screaming at the end.
Yeah, how many coffees do you drink a day? Because every time I see you on
Oh,
Twitter,
that is a
you're
good
like,
question.
you're like having a coffee.
Yeah, probably too much.
But the exact number is
Is
too
there
much.
too much?
It's that weird thing where like, I think it depends on how much I'm doing throughout the day, because I don't necessarily, if I'm in the middle of doing something, I don't feel like I need it.
Sure.
But if I have like a break in between things and I feel like I need to power up again or whatever, like that's when I tend to feel like I need one in the middle of the day. But I also totally just think it's a placebo effect because I just like coffee so much, you know?
I know, when I had kids, like when I was pregnant, they're like, you have to give up coffee. And I was like, you can suck it.
Like, you have to give up
You're
your
like, you give up coffee.
Yeah. You have to give up your medical license, sir.
I know.
I'd like a second opinion.
And I had a cup of coffee a day. My children are amazing. That's all I'm going to say. So listen.
They're smarter, faster.
Mhm.
Very energetic.
Yeah.
Just
Hyper.
shockingly energetic. And they crash.
Yeah.
I have a really hard time getting up in the morning.
That's when I actually think it's the most placebo for me, because like I'm usually up super early no matter what, and I don't think I actually need a coffee to like operate. I just think I want one in the morning to operate. It's like
sure.
It's more ritual,
Yeah.
you know.
I definitely feel the effects of it before it actually would have affected me. You know, like I get that first sip and I'm like, yeah.
Right, exactly.
It's not in my system that fast.
Yeah.
Alex Long. Oh.
Well, oh yeah. You're welcome, Alex. Thanks for ordering the drink.
And thanks for hanging out.
Thanks for coming.
Alex is like, who are these two bozos hanging out with
Yeah.
you?
I didn't ask for those guys.
Sign it.
We're gonna sign it too.
We apologize.
Don't ever apologize for
Oh, yeah.
being awesome. I'm really it's so easy to apologize for things that like you don't need to apologize for. I'm trying to, get
Be
them
better
out
at
of it. It's a journey.
You know, I think so much of it is just embracing your weird.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't mean like that you're weird. I mean like
Oh, no, I
the
am.
universal embrace your weird kind of thing.
Right.
Like we're all weird and we just have to embrace it.
Big weirdo. Don't mind it. But it's like you were saying earlier, like I used to be so like nervous that I would be found out,
Oh my God, yeah.
And now I'm like,
I guess it's just part of being human, right? It's part of the weird, dumb, squishy bag of meat and liquid that we are, which is just that we're like,
speak for yourself.
even with all the people saying the right thing.
Squishy. I did push-ups 3 months ago.
We are squishy bags of
We're
liquid
going
people.
Squishy.
We're just we're all just dumb humans.
Oh my God. One of the things that I think is great as I get older is the more I realize that everyone is the same. And it's just like, it's
It makes you
really that
appreciate
last,
people more.
totally. It's just that last 2% that like differentiates your,
Oh, he says, Alex, he or she. I don't know if it's if you're he or she, but they say if you want to sign it.
Oh, that's
Oh,
just
nice.
we're not in the show, so we don't want to. Yeah, we don't want to sully your very special friend. But that's very sweet of you.
we got to do, Sissy and I got to do this thing on Wednesday?
Yes.
Yeah.
What day is it?
Sometime in the last few days.
Yes, Wednesday.
Where we went and it's called the Young Storytellers Foundation. And these kids they write sort of one-act stories.
So it's elementary school age children,
Oh,
like fifth
amazing.
grade.
Just waiting for you to come in.
Yes. So it's like 11-year-olds. They write these stories. So they work in a collaborative process with like a mentor, and then they write a story in like a screenplay in like 3 acts. And then they have Disney sponsors this thing, so they have their Disney voice actors come in and act them out. And so it was Armin and myself and Zara, who was on earlier. Fred Tatasciore, who was the voice of everything.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Bill Farmer.
Bill Farmer, who's the voice of Goofy and also Hop Hop in Amphibia.
Oh yeah.
And Jasmine and
Brock
somebody.
Powell.
Right, yeah.
The whole
Yeah, sorry, my brain.
Brockner.
I didn't mean it. I love Brock. He's wonderful. But it was so much fun.
It was a criminal amount of fun.
And like instead of like sitting and being like, I am going to a table read your thing, like we were up, moving around and
so
like
good.
pretending to swim and
And people who didn't have lines in that moment would be the sound effects. It's like, it's fifth graders. So there's a lot of like explosions and fart noises and and people would like.
I like how you're giving it to the fifth graders versus the reality of us being like, this is our chance to be the partner. That's really what it is.
Yeah, that's
It's
fair.
like,
That's a fair point.
because if I were there, I'd be like, let me be the fart noise,
I am the
please.
fart noise.
I've always wanted to be the fart noise.
But the whole reason I started telling this was that Sissy did this really cool thing because the kids afterwards, they have this like poster and they were coming up and asking us to sign it. And Sissy was asking each of them to sign the copy of the script that they had hand in writing. And the kids were like, both really unprepared for that, and that they like didn't expect that you, who was in the show that they love, would want that. And then also, it was so sweet. They were like, they loved it. It was a nice touch.
I don't think, you know, that actually made me think of something recently where I don't think a lot of people realize how special and talented they are.
Oh my god.
You know, like who are, you know, because like so many people, I mean, just like there are artists alone on Twitter that I communicate with that like are such world-class, extraordinary talents.
Oh my gosh.
And
yeah.
they don't realize that,
Yeah.
but then I'll see them, you know, and I'll see them kind of like not fully own their power, you know, like
Right.
it's like, man, like you need to know, like
Yeah.
there's so much extraordinary talent out there, and I hope more people get to really find a home in the places that they belong in this industry and in the, you know, like in their creative zones where they can make a living off of it, because
And also realizing that like what you think you're gonna do might not be it, but you'll like the current will help you find it.
1000%. I didn't think I'd be in this career at all.
Same.
Definitely did not think I was going to be
Yeah, so look, I think that's actually kind of a fun thing to talk about for anybody watching, because like I think a lot of people think that you're supposed to be on like the path the whole time,
Yeah.
or you're supposed to know what you want to do your whole life, or you're supposed to do it at a young age and that's the only entry point. And I don't think any of us, A, were prepared for this, like, you know, for a career at
Right.
first, or B, you know, young in the sense of like what people think, you know, like we're all a little bit
Allie says sign the suitcases.
Oh, okay.
So sign the suitcases for Allie. Thank you, Allie.
Absolutely. Thank you, Allie.
we're like, you know, in so many ways unlikely, but in the larger scale it's exactly where everyone starts. So I wish more people do that. So
Yeah.
what got you into doing this in the first place?
Yeah, so I don't
Are we both
have
signing?
yeah, Allie asked if we would sign it for
Sign
her.
the suitcase.
Thank you. And thank you for giving us your pronouns
That's what
too.
she
It's really helpful.
Oh, thank you.
I don't come from an acting background. I have a degree in business and a degree in Spanish. And I went to work in the Silicon Valley for 10 years. I worked in startups and I worked for people who made a lot more money than me. And I was just deeply unhappy. And I went on a trip with my now husband and we were talking about dream jobs. And I said, I've always wanted to be a voice on The Simpsons, but I didn't even know how to get started. I think you just have to, know somebody in Hollywood. Like I didn't even know voiceover. I didn't know the word. And then 2 weeks, and so this kind of goes into my like the current will take you and yeah, listen, I'm woo woo, deal with it. But 2 weeks after that conversation, I was getting ready for work in the morning, and Nancy Cartwright, who is Bart Simpson, was on the radio talking about voiceover and how it's this incredible job. And oh, by the way, there's a school an hour away from you that teaches just voiceover in San Francisco. And I got on the phone that week and, or that day, I started taking classes that week. And then 2 years later, I signed with Dean. I booked my first job for The Walking Dead, Telltale's The Walking Dead.
That's amazing.
Which was my first audition.
That's crazy.
And then I
is
moved
crazy.
to LA. And it was, it's been remarkable. And it's like, I found, and I know Liza's probably heard this story 1,000 times, but that's what happens when you show up for my streams. I've found in my life, like whether it's work or relationships or whatever, like if it's the wrong path, it feels like I'm just banging my head against this little wall.
Yeah.
But when it's the right one, it just comes together like a zipper. It's like, okay, this is it. This is where you're supposed to be.
Almost to the point where you're like, shouldn't there be more friction?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're so
Yeah.
used to it in other
Yeah.
points of your life that
Yeah.
it's like confusing.
Totally.
And we associate this thing, I think, especially in America, where we have this like very like work hard,
Yes.
grind, and especially in our industry.
The
And
culture. Of
there's
that.
this like grind culture, not necessarily in our industry per se, but there's like, you got to have a hustle, you got to have a side hustle, you got to keep grinding, you got to keep working.
Yeah.
That you get used to it, that like work should feel like work. And,
Yeah.
it's like, if I'm not burnt out by the end of the day, did I do my job hard enough? Did I try hard enough?
Yeah, try Silicon Valley. Like,
Yeah,
I was
imagine.
working 110 hours a week, and that's not hyperbole.
That's
Like, I would get text
insane.
messages at 3:00 in the morning, and if I didn't answer them, I'd get in trouble the next day at work. Like, I was,
That's
up
no
at
way to
6, I was home at 11 p.m. I mean, it was misery. Like, I really, truly had a mental breakdown, and I don't say that lightly, but it was just I was so deeply unhappy, and I just knew that I was in the wrong place, at that time in my life. And thank goodness, like, Nancy came on the radio, and I actually ended up going to her webpage, and I emailed her like fan thing, and I was like, hey, just want you to know, like, you changed the trajectory of my life. And she wrote back,
That's amazing.
via her assistant. She was like, Nancy says the following, so like, great. But she was like, that's great, best of luck. It's just, it's so nice. It's so nice. It was just really great. And also, Kitty, I don't want to hear that you just paint. Painting is really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and by the way, they make really lovely paintings. I've
Well,
seen
tag
them.
us. Put them on Twitter.
Yeah.
Tag us. I'd love to see them.
They actually made some Hollow Knight paintings that were really cool.
Oh, did they?
One of the,
Gonna find you on Twitter.
what do they call him? Because he's not the like little void guy. Your character.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah.
also what's her name? Oh my gosh, Hornet.
Oh, that's
Which,
cool.
by the way, dude, like, about Silk Song, I'm sure.
Mhm.
The sequel. I'm still waiting for it to come out.
Cat.
I don't think I've been more excited about a game, the sequel to this game that Armin and I both love.
Follow me, Kitty Cat, Gundam.
Yeah.
Hall & Oates.
Oh, that's, yeah.
Yeah, it's all Hall & Oates, and it's about these two guys who go on an adventure
They
to
have
write
this
the
hair.
greatest album that no one will ever hear. Have you seen their music video, speaking of Hall & Oates? Like-
Maneater. Yeah.
like-
Hello.
No, the best one is Out of Touch, Out of Time. There's like giant clocks, and it's like the most 80s like.
I went back to
Capsule. There's like a cartwheel shot. Like it's.
I recently saw the video for Mr. Roboto.
Oh, yeah,
And I
the
was
first
like,
time.
Yeah, yeah. And it was,
Oh,
I mean, the
dude.
first time I think in 15 years.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Basically the first time, and I was like, "What
Yeah.
fresh, wonderful heck is the '80s about?" I forgot.
I went back to watch Dancing with Myself, the Billy Idol.
Oh
one.
yeah.
It's like zombies start.
Billy
Yeah.
Idol's another one who's just I love his
So
jams.
good.
Yeah.
So good.
Um,
This is for Chen. Chen, thank you. So this is so tripping me out. But
I know.
yes, thank you.
none of us can. Yeah, none of us are
The
great.
reverse.
I actually have that problem at home when I have sessions because my like monitor is like that, and I put my computer to the right of it.
Oh,
So whenever I have to like scroll the screens, I'm like, wait a minute. And then
Where-
always go in the
where-
other direction. So like anytime I have to either log out of a session or something, there's always like an extra beat where I'm like, okay, bye.
Ah.
Bye.
I always try to like have like a not brr face when I like go to end the Zoom call.
Yeah.
I'm like, because then it freezes, and I'm like, don't do anything horribly embarrassing.
you're like, just keep looking confident and calm and
Trying to find the thing.
find the button and
So bad.
come on. That's what I have a cool story about getting into voiceover.
Yeah, how did you guys get in?
So I was originally gonna go to I was a history major who was gonna do, which wasn't my work. I was going to school getting a history degree. That was just what I was doing. I was gonna go to Wall Street and do
What?
do investment banking or consulting.
No way.
Yeah, way. And then I decided at the last minute, and I was like, something doesn't feel right about this. All my friends were miserable. And so I decided to get into acting. Anyway, came out to LA. I was like, what is
So many actors.
180 degrees in the other direction? Great, I'm doing that. But came out to LA, was doing the on-camera stuff, wasn't really going anywhere. In a couple things, but not much. And I was about to quit because before I came here, not before I came here, when I got here, my dad had read some article about John Hamm, and he was like, I set 30 as my my thing. It's like, if I wasn't a working actor by 30, I'm out. So I did the same thing and wrote my 30th birthday on a card, put it on my fridge, and for like 2 years was just like okay, here it comes. Like any minute, I was working towards it. Never happened. And the night before my 30th birthday, like the month leading up to it, I was like auctioning off my dreams as best the way I can think of describing it. Is I was like, I'm gonna go back to school. I'm gonna do a PhD. I'm gonna go become a professor. I'm gonna go do anything like join the State Department, anything but this. And so I was lying in my bed the night before my 30th birthday, and I was watching YouTube videos, and I only knew a couple voice actors at the time. One of them was Steve Bloom. Didn't know him, just knew of him.
He's lovely.
He's delightful.
You may have heard of him.
You may have heard of him. Yeah. He's the voice of
Everything.
Nailed
it.
Crushed it. But there was an
How many
interview
years
with
have you
him.
around? I missed that too.
Oh, okay. 1, 2, 3.
He's the voice of
Everything. 2 times the charm. And I saw this video with him, and he was talking about how he has this tattoo, and it's the sound wave of his last line from Cowboy Bebop, where he goes, his like last line's like,
Oh,
and it's the
that's
tattoo of that.
awesome.
And he was like, this is when I became a working actor. And I was like,
Oh,
wait a minute. So I looked it up online, and it was like, I saw his thing, and he is older than you'd think, based on, I don't know,
He's
what skincare.
134 years
He is
old.
ancient.
Spike Spiegel is actually a mummy.
But I looked at his age on Wikipedia, and then I looked at when Cowboy Bebop was released, and I was like, whoa, he was 40. And I was like, and I was like, do you think the last part of his life he's been unhappy with because he didn't hit his dream at 30 and it took 10 extra years? Like, no. And so the next day, it was like this moment of liberation. I like immediately felt freer. And the next day, like that thing about the universe kind of get all woo-woo on you, the universe kind of serves it up to you. This actor, Pat Fraley,
yeah.
who's he's been the voice of so many everything.
Everything.
I had been on some email blast that signed up for something with him once upon a time, but like voiceover wasn't my thing, wasn't thinking about it, and got
With pipes like that.
I know,
like,
right?
voiceover was not my thing.
Meanwhile, I feel like in this world, you have the kind of voice where everyone would just ask you if you do voiceover based on like the second you open your
I bet they do now, huh?
They do,
Yeah.
They do. People are like, do you do radio? I'm like, sometimes you can hear me on there, yes.
I would.
I'm not a doctor, but
Exactly.
Sorry.
I sell you Dr. Pepper on the radio.
Nice.
But anyway, so he sent out this email that was like, hey, sign up for my animation, whatever thing. And I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to try the other thing. Committed to it, got going, got a career started. And my first union animation job was a group record. And Wes Gleason, who's a fantastic voice director.
That's like Yeti. That's just like,
yeah. And so he cast me in this thing that's it's out now. It's been out for a few months.
What is it?
It's the Commandi. It's a Commandi short film. And I didn't know who was going to be in the session. And I show up and I sit down. I'm doing the paperwork. You have to do all this paperwork at the start of it. And I look down and see who's on the call sheet. And Steve Bloom.
Coming, yeah. I knew that was coming.
Holy shit!
That is
and so we're in
amazing.
the thing, and we're on the break between lines, and I was like, so I have a hell of a story to tell you, Steve. And he was like, what? And so I got some story, and I was like, it was so cool because I always wondered how I was going to tell him that. Because at some point I'm going to get to work with him, and maybe it'll be an interview or maybe it'll be some situation. I didn't realize this was going to be my first union animated show.
And how old were you? Was it before your 30th?
No,
Awesome.
I was 30. Going on 33 when that happened. So it's 3 years later.
Alan Rickman, who you may know.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up. Yeah.
Die Hard. He got his first acting job at 48.
Well, and
48.
also
Wow.
John Hamm, who you brought up before, really didn't become the John Hamm that anybody knows about until he was in his 40s.
Oh,
When he
yeah.
booked Mad Men. So,
Yeah.
Sure.
it's, I think a lot of people, especially with acting, I think because more of the on-camera stuff that people just assume it's the horrible ego of how people are supposed to look a certain way or whatever.
Yeah.
But the reality is one, everybody has value. Everybody needs to exist in those spaces because we need real people and we need variety. But the air conditioned phantoms have just turned on.
We hear you.
But I think so many people don't realize that it really isn't about how young you are. And I think honestly acting serves you better personally the older you are.
Have some experience. Yeah, for sure. It's funny because Wes Gleason, who was your director, was my director on my first union
No
job.
kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
My first union job. Yeah.
I haven't worked with him, but everything I've watched that he's worked on is incredible.
Amazing.
He's amazing. And I just finished working on a show that just had its final season called F is for Family. It's on Netflix.
Oh yeah.
It's not for kids. But one of the main writers was a writer on Simpsons. And so at the wrap party 2 weeks ago, I was like, you don't know this because I didn't want to make it weird in the recording sessions, but you're responsible for me getting into this industry. And he was like, that's so cool. It's just,
Yeah.
I love that it all comes back around.
Yeah.
I love that it all comes back around.
Joey Monroe says, hello, I hope you're having a lovely morning, afternoon, night, and that everyone is enjoying this wonderful stream. Oh my gosh.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
You are.
Thank
Hope
you.
so, too.
Thank you for hanging.
Also, Ryan, is your apartment still cold and why is it so cold?
That's amazing. My apartment is freezing, and it's because it's basically like a garage unit that's just like an ice box that has tile floors and no like real insulation. So and it's not in direct sunlight at all. So it can be like 70 degrees outside, and it'll be like 40 in my apartment.
That's how my house is.
Yeah.
I'm constantly in layers. And then, you know, in the summer, it's brutal.
Yeah.
So I'll be in my booth just like sweating profusely, like trying to open the door and get some, you know, airflow going. And then in the winter, I'm like, I just need some heat. You know, there's no such thing as insulation here.
No, there's not.
It's part of the adventure.
It's part of the adventure.
So Ryan, how did you end up in voiceover?
Freak accident.
Yes. Give me
Yeah,
that.
like all of us, I guess. I was in bands for almost 20 years as a singer and a guitar player and songwriter. I had grown up obsessed with film. When I was a little kid, I wanted to be a director, an actor, and all that stuff. But outside of like training in New York and like doing theater in school and stuff like that, I never really thought I could pursue it as a career.
Yeah.
And by the time I was 14, I was already like deep in playing bands with my friends. So I was like, screw it, we can do this. We can make this a thing that we can control. So basically, I gave up acting as a dream of any sort until I moved out here 6 years ago with my band. And I was like, well, I'm in LA. I may as well just like, you know, while I'm looking for other day jobs and trying to support the band, just survive out here.
Yeah.
Maybe I can do extra work and get some like, you know, backup change to pay rent and like
Sure.
learn some stuff again. So I started taking classes again, and I just kind of fell in love with it. And then after 2 years of working full time at this amazing job, it was a great place. It was a really brutal job, but it was a wonderful like place to work at. They laid off our entire department like on a Friday before lunch. So they were like, "Hey, you don't have a job anymore." And I was like,
Friday before lunch.
"Yeah, oh, it was brutal. Yeah, you don't forget that. You don't forget that." So the same week, my band broke up, and it was the first
No!
time. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Did that come out of the blue? Was it like surprising or was it like
No, it was one of those things. Like honestly, it was for the better, even though none of us wanted it to be. Because like you know, it was my best friends. We've been doing this forever, but it was just that realization of life is giving everybody individual opportunities to grow and live better. But the band was just becoming this like hemorrhaging thing.
Sure.
It was hard to
Yeah.
So it was like more like break up the band to save the family kind of thing. And but it just happened to be in the same colossal like devastating moment of my entire life is changing. And at this point I was 32, and it was literally instant. Like while we had the breakup lunch, and my buddies were like, "So what are you gonna do?" I was like, "I think I'm supposed to be acting." And their response was, "Well, obviously, but what are you gonna do for money?" And I was like, I don't know, but I never want to work a normal job again. And I had unemployment, and like measly amount of savings. And I was like, there's a limited amount of time here until I'm not gonna be able to eat it all and probably have to move back to New York and like live with family in my 30s. And it was like, I just somehow can't let this be the case. And I just fell in love with acting so much again.
Yeah.
And I just dug in my heels and started doing anything I could. I was doing a bunch of extra work and you know, I was on Actors Access and backstage and all the different things, just anything. And then I ended up through a friend in acting class, my buddy Talon Warburton, who is also a phenomenal actor, by the way, if anybody's watching. Talon is amazing.
Is he related to Patrick?
He is, he's his son.
Oh really?
Yeah. Yeah, the whole Warburton family they're the kindest humans.
They
They're
seem
so
cool.
oh my
Yeah.
god, they are so generous and down to earth, and
That's
yeah,
so
they're
good.
amazing.
Thank you for keeping this process
Yeah.
going.
Yeah, I was
I
gonna take.
learned in the Owl House ones, like somebody's got to be initiating. Into
Yes.
this.
we just go off blathering. But again, Talon being the sweetheart that he is, he was like, I'm working on this short film, and you would be great as the co-lead. Would you be into doing this with me? And I was like, I'd be honored. Oh my gosh.
Oh, that's so cool.
And it turned out it was an on-camera thing. It was being directed by David Sokolov. So we had never met before, and I was
Oh,
like, you know, I knew of David, obviously, but
Another
yeah,
terrific actor who is
extraordinary and such a kind and like amazing director, and he makes he produces great reels and basically like this crash
His
course.
voice is also single-handedly responsible for almost every earthquake in Los
Oh
Angeles.
yes, absolutely.
So,
If you think
so
Armin's,
deep.
if you think Armin's voice is deep, Armin sounds like me compared to David. Yeah, like
He walks in the room and I'm like,
hi. Yeah.
ah!
You can feel David in your stomach when he
Yeah.
talks. Like your
It's-
body.
It's the most like resonant thing. Really,
It's incredible. It's incredible. Even when he calls me on the phone, I feel it. It's crazy. But yeah, we had this incredible like crash course friendship where we just, you know, I had to trust him and he had to trust me, and we had to like go into this thing, and we just, you know, had a bromance. And afterwards, he was like, "You're really good at doing this. Like, do you do voiceover stuff?" And I was like, "I've done little things, but I never actually thought about really like."
Sure.
He's like, "You know, do you have a reel?" And I said no, but then I knew that I had to, you know, get one together, and he helped me. He produced one for me, and that's been the reel that I've had that like literally got me working, because I had that reel and then I had some measly credits, and I was like, I live near a bunch of these studios. Like, I'll look up if I can reach out to them and email them and see if anyone will.
Yeah.
You know, not expecting to hear back from anyone.
Sure.
And then a few weeks in, it was just like within a short amount of time, like I was just getting responses from everybody. Some called me, some brought me in directly for auditions, some auto cast me and stuff, and it was just like off to the races. And I literally haven't stopped since. So it's just with the kindest of strangers.
And you know what I think is interesting is that each of us, because I was 30 when I made the switch, you know, and again, like I'd had my whole life, you know, laid out, graduate high school, go to college, get your degree,
All of the
get married,
yeah,
have the
exactly.
2.5 kids, and the, you know, and then to break it
And you do
midway.
have 2.5. It's a half one, it's an odd.
No, we're working on it.
Really
it's
good with their
scary.
hands, though.
Yeah, but it's really scary to deviate from like the path that we think we're supposed to follow, right? But then to find it again in your 30s when maybe you have like a little bit more life experience
Yeah.
and shall we call it chill?
Yeah.
Because I was not chill in my 20s. I don't know. There's a piece to it, you know, with finding it.
I think
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah.
sense of you know yourself more and you trust yourself more to know
Yeah.
like, yeah, these are crazy risky things that you're taking on, but you understand the layer of risk and responsibility, and there's
Sure.
a sense of like it's kind of like respectfully not giving a crap. You know, like you're just
Yeah.
kind of like, screw it, I need to just do this. I need to.
It's also like for me, you know, it's also I've been as low as I was, and I know how bad that felt.
Yeah.
And working for people who literally did not give a shit about me or my well-being or you know whatever. I did work for people who were great, and I worked for people who were not. But knowing that feeling and just being like, okay, well, that was real bad for me.
Yeah.
I don't want to go back there. This, you know, am I having a bad day today in whatever? Am I not working as much this week as I want? Maybe, but it's not that. You know,
Right.
it's not that.
Yeah.
So that's a nice feeling. Also, Liliana, you got your Hootsuper. You truly are a gem.
Amazing.
And I drew an extra booty for you.
I love
So
it.
you have a weird birdworm. Down the bottom. Enjoy your birdworm.
Enjoy your bird.
Enjoy your birdworm. Yes.
One of these signing thing I did, the person was like, "Oh, can you draw your character fighting another character?" I stick figures. My skill level is stick figures.
I'm sorry.
And I get that people are like, "Can you draw the face?" I'm like, I can draw a stick figure. Like, that's
Yeah.
the limit of my skill. I tried, but
I had a couple of people request that I like do a little Pinot, the little bird, you know,
Yeah.
with my roadie prints. And I was like, I apologize for what you're going to receive, but that's way funnier. That's
Well,
like
listen,
that makes mine.
I
I'm
wanted
really
to
cracking.
fight. I was like, I can't do this.
my birdworm
That's so
is
good.
not a great bird.
Your
No,
bird's
your
a
bird's
fantastic
perfect.
bird.
Yeah.
Like birdworm.
No, what's funny is I always envy people who can do the really simple designs and make them really dynamic.
Yeah.
I know. I am not an an
I am
artist.
not an
I'm not an actor.
I only play one.
That actually reminds me of one of my favorite inside jokes that I have with friends, and now I reveal to whoever's in the chat and you guys, that I still say all the time to myself and to other friends. My buddy, this is back in high school, literally, another friend of mine who at the time was an actor. He hasn't been pursuing it lately, but he's brilliant, very funny. His name's Danny, and he went to, this is literally like over 10 years ago, he went to New York Comic Con dressed as Toad from Mario,
Oh my gosh.
and like walked around with an interview, with a microphone, like interview random people on the floor, and he just asked people stuff. And you know, a lot of it was like, you know, he would get people to improv things with him, and he'd say things and kind of like wait for their response and stuff. And he had this thing where, you know, it was like a super cut of all the different people, and he goes to like one guy at the end, and he's like, you know, blah, blah, blah. And he gives it to the guy, and it's just dead space, and he goes, "Not an actor."
That's funny.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love people who are quick on their feet like that. I don't.
Yeah, so good.
I was gonna say something terribly important and I forgot.
Terribly important. Well, I'll say something dumb until you remember. One of my favorite interactions recently at New York Comic Con, I was walking the floor, and there were all these incredible people in like cosplays and everything, all these amazing things, and I, being at my first convention, was overwhelmed with just everything. So I'm just looking around like a deer in headlights, and I was wearing like this like gray speckled kind of like suit that I had, but I had this scarf that I wore that was blue and red striped because Rhodey, my character in My Hero, has a tie that color. So it was like the only thing that I had of real color on me, and it had these like distinct blocked out stripes. And I bumped into this this woman who, it looked like she and her husband, it looked like they were probably there supporting like one of their kids or something. So we're just like walking, I'm kind of like this, and we bump into each other, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry." And she goes, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And she looks at my scarf, and she goes, "Oh, Waldo." And then she realizes that I wasn't Waldo, and she goes, "Oh, I'm so sorry." I was like, not only do I appreciate that, I think I'm the only person who actually would, in this age group, that we also know what this meant. I was like, "Thank you."
That's so
Perfect.
awesome. Alex, thank you. I always have to find like an image online and then do my best to draw it, and sometimes it looks like a kindergartner did it. And
What is that
sometimes-
image of?
this is for Katrina. This is a glyph. So in the Owl House, it's one of the ways that magic is created, and that's all I'm going to tell you until you watch it, you bastard.
You haven't watched it? You haven't watched it?
I've watched several episodes of it.
Okay.
Yeah, it comes on later.
It is a fantastic show.
I love
It is
it.
a fantastic show.
But I love it so much because it's all about like inclusivity and
Yeah.
like a freak fry. Yes, follow us. TM. But I just
Almost sprayed the whole screen. That really got me. I
here's
was
some
like,
extra DNA for your poster.
that's real good.
I just love the show. I love it. I think it's so beautifully done. I think Dana is, you know, she's such a trailblazer with not only the artwork, but the stories that she's telling and the characters that she's including. And
Truly one of the great voices of our time right now.
she's so gifted. She's so gifted. And it's such a joy to work on it. And I'm sorry I made you go through puberty twice, Alex. I think we'll go to a different one this time. But it's hard because people are, you know, when you're signing a bunch of things and people are like, rate your favorite quote. It's like, well, there's a few that stand out and a few that everybody remembers. And, you know, good luck with puberty is one of them. So
That's
hopefully you did
amazing.
have good luck in puberty.
One of the hardest things for me signing the Rhodey prints lately is because the movie has only been out for a little bit and not everyone has gotten to see it.
Yeah.
I don't know who's
Yeah.
seen the movie, and when
Right.
people are like, write your favorite quote, I'm like, there's a chance you've seen it because you're asking that, but at the same
Yeah.
time, how vague can I, like, how much can I give? Like, what's the quote I can use that doesn't ruin anything? So I have like 2 or 3 that I know I can use for him that are like the non-spoilery ones.
Sure.
And then I have like, you know, I need to, when I meet people in person, I can do the like, do you know? Like, I can
I
do the
know.
wink, you know?
I know. Well, that's the tricky thing too, is I never want to give spoilers,
Right.
you know? I mean, I hope like,
It's so hard. I mean, like in the age of the internet where it's like, I understand the balance, but I also suffer myself from like, if I don't watch something quick enough, it's inevitably going to be spoiled on social media
Right.
just by the sheer volume
Yes.
of the timeline.
Right.
Yes.
And it's unfortunately, it's not that it's necessarily anyone's fault, but it's kind of also just my fault. You know, like because it's like, like if you don't get to it in time, like it's just the state of the world, how it works now. You know.
Well, it's like what we were talking about earlier. You know, especially with Lilith, like I would record my lines and then
Right.
be on my way. Like I don't get to see or read the entire episode. I just get my lines, and then, you know, as they were coming out, they are all over Twitter, which is amazing. And also, like, I don't know what's happened in the rest of the show.
Right, the context
So
is- yeah.
so it's like, honey, I gotta go watch. Don't talk to me. I gotta go watch my show.
It's what you said, what you both said about spoilers and our involvement in accidentally or not spoiling things for people. About so I'm in a game called Scarlet Nexus and the anime.
Oh, so good.
And my character, Karen Travers, spelled Karen, which is hilarious. There's also a Karen Travers who is a journalist,
Okay.
and people
No relation.
tagged her in a
Oh,
lot of
that's
things.
amazing.
Oh my gosh.
So it was Karen Travers,
Oh my
and
gosh. That's so funny.
but he's the primary antagonist of the game and the
Wait, you
series.
play a bad guy? No.
Shocking!
With a voice like that? Stop. Which is funny because he's like the nicest human on the face of the
But
planet.
that's how it always works.
Evil. And you always play villains too, and you're
Yeah.
Which is weird that they're letting me play good boys, so that should say something.
So
We have a serial killer over
Yeah.
here who gets to play nice people, and
I eat a lot of cereal.
this is gonna like
Colin Oates.
Yes!
We're never gonna lose this. I love it.
no, we're not.
This is that kind of thing where like 20 years from now, we're gonna be like at a brunch or something like,
What are you talking about?
yeah, in the future flying cars.
Yeah.
We're talking about Hall and Oates.
So Karn.
Oh, Karn, but he's a villain, or he's the antagonist, and it's not till the very end that you realize why he's doing what he's doing. But we recorded it over. I mean, not the anime.
Right, so like your actual motivation the whole time for your performance, and suddenly you're like, wait, that's why?
No, because we actually recorded some of the end stuff the very first session.
Oh,
because they needed
cool.
like a sample of it.
Cool.
So I knew the whole time was happening. Of course, the director Patrick Seitz was great.
Oh,
Talking
Patrick's
through it.
amazing, yeah.
Yeah, he's a gem. So I had a bunch of information going into it. So I forget how little of that ends up in the game until the very end. So like early on, the game was released, and someone was like, "Oh, I like your character." And I was like, "Oh, it's like my motivation." You know, not to get
Right, you got
weird and
into
actory, but
a
I was
heady
like,
thing, and they're like,
yeah, it was like it's really easy for me to like connect why he did that, why he does what he does. It's evil, and his justification for it. The person's like, "What?" And I was like, "Well,
Just kidding.
sorry, spoiled the end of the game for you."
I meant another thing.
Yeah.
Alondra, thank you. No Witch is an Island. Alex, that's my new one. So, you know, listen, if you want something other than puberty and not being an island, then write it in the thing and then I'll write something else. That's all.
Joey says,
Yeah, which is not. That's a great quote, though.
I love that.
not-
Technically, Hootie said it, but it's still like it's one of my favorite things because it's just like you're not alone. Like
Yeah.
no matter how much you think you are, no matter how much you think you have to do it. by
Oh, I see
yourself.
what Joey said. Joey said, not me forgetting people haven't seen the My Hero movie because I saw it every night for the first week it was out. Oh my
Damn,
god! Joey, thank you.
Joey was a super fan of Wood. Woo, woo, woo.
Joey, you're the digital hug right now.
Ooh, did you listen to the Sunny? Wait, Sunnyvale is. That's not the Buffy thing that we did, right?
No, that's that Hall and Oates single.
I actually don't know if you're. I'm like, man, it could be one of their B tracks. I might not have heard it.
So
I think
Ryan and
they mean Sunnydale. I think they just put a B instead of a D.
Right.
Yes,
little
I'm
autocorrect.
very, very excited. About
So one of our friends wrote an original script set in the Buffyverse, and we got to do a table reading of it. God, was that like 8 months ago?
that is crazy. It was definitely a while ago.
I mean, it was definitely pre-vaccine, but it was so much fun. And it was us and Brianna White and
Jen Hale,
Jen Hale, Mark
Mark
Meir.
Meir.
Yeah, they got to play a married couple instead of
Oh my
friends
God, that
we wrote
was-
up, which
I was
just
geeking.
amazing.
If you watched it, because it's up on YouTube, if you watch it during
Yeah.
their scenes doing that stuff, my face is like I'm just having such a moment. Like it's so yeah.
It was so much fun, like silly fun. So yeah, if you have a spare hour, you want to go listen to something.
It's so good. The story is so good.
It was so fun.
We did 2 episodes for that, right? We read 2.
I think so. And we unlocked, because we were doing raising money for charity.
It's a charity stream.
And we
We
blasted
unlocked.
through it.
We're getting 2 more, I believe.
Yeah, so I think he's working on the next couple episodes.
It's
so
so good.
good.
You would actually be wonderful in it.
Ash Sevilla.
We
He's,
should talk to Ash about him like doing something because you would be so good in it.
I'll be the table read. I'll be the directions.
What's fun is,
Exterior day.
was Ash reading all the
I
directions?
think Ash was reading, or Milan. I don't know. Anyway, it was.
Milan was definitely
fun.
supervising. She
Yeah.
was like, all you are like hamsters.
She's amazing. Tegan, thank you. Tegan, I have a friend who spells her name Tegan, and she calls herself Tegan. So I don't know if you're a Tegan or a Tegan, but enjoy this. I love this print so much. I love it.
Also, Aurora said hello a while ago.
Oh, hi, Aurora. Sorry.
Hi, Aurora.
Hello, Aurora.
The reason we're all doing this is because the chat screen is
It's
a lot
like
smaller
just
than
far
we
enough
have.
away and just
So
small enough that it's like.
Everyone's probably like, what is wrong?
Oh, Joey says the movie meant a lot to me because it was the last thing my best friend and I got to do together before she moved across the country.
I remember you told me this story, I believe, on Twitter. Oh my gosh. Hi again. That is one of the most heartwarming stories. That's honestly my favorite part about this movie is people telling me who they shared it with.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
A
cool.
lot
Yeah.
of people brought like really close friends or intentionally saw it together because they were both super fans or met people at the theater and became friends and brought their family and it was like the first anime they showed their parents.
Aw, that's so cool.
Yeah, it was really extraordinary. It's the gift that keeps on giving for sure.
Like just to be like peripherally involved in something. And not that you were peripherally involved, but like to be involved in something that has that significance to people is so.
Well, that's how I feel about it. It's
we
like
do, right?
I don't think any of us are presumptuous enough to think we have any ownership over these things.
Okay.
You know, we are equally just as happy to be invited to the table.
Yeah.
And like I'm as much a fan of the experience as I am getting to do the thing. So like especially with that, I had to put my fanboy away when I was working on that like big time. And it's it's still just so surreal to be a part of something like that. And I never think about it from the perspective of like I had something to do with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
I'm just like, you guys didn't kick me out the door
Yeah.
in time, and so I got to play.
and like I'm just so fortunate that the character was just so beautifully written and created with so much heart. And I
Yeah.
got to experience that. Like and it was odd that we shared a lot of similarities in like personal life stuff, but most of all, it was just like it was a gift that I knew other people hopefully would connect with, and seeing that is way more powerful than like
Oh god, yeah.
Yeah.
us doing the thing, you know.
I worked on a game a while ago. Came out like 2016. But one of the characters is basically running from a situation where his wife had like early onset dementia, and so he goes out into the wilderness to like get away from it all, and ends up forming a bond with my character. And you know, the game is more of like an interactive movie. You know, it's like it's a conversation for 6 hours, and it's great, and I love it. And
I love those kind of games.
I do too. And
What game is it by chance?
it's called Firewatch, but
Oh, did you win a BAFTA?
You may have heard. Yeah.
But the number of people that reached out and were like, this helped me through like my mother, you know, going through dementia, or my, you know, I was going through a time where I was totally alone, and you know, it's just it's stuff like that that makes me do what I do. You know, it's because you don't get into voiceover to like be famous. Like that's not what this is. It's that you don't do it for that. But
Believe me, like, and I say it as we're doing this thing, like we're all like in this environment, like this is so weird. At the same time, we are equally as appreciative. We're like, I can't believe like people want to spend time with us like this, you know? Like,
I think it also helps clarify what we do when we're doing it, because it's very easy,
Yes.
especially in the beginning, before things that you're in, because some of the shows we're in, and games and movies have like development cycles that are
we'll
you know,
work on
1,000
them
years
2
long.
years before
Yeah,
they come out.
2, 3 years.
yeah.
Um,
For example, I booked Lilith in 2018, and then it didn't come out until 2020.
Wow, that's crazy.
Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, no, same. I'm the Hulk in Spidey and His Amazing Friends, Disney Junior. And the first audition for that was in August of 2019, and it aired summer of 2021.
Yep.
So like, yeah, it's crazy. Like, you almost forget like the start of it because you're so far into it.
Yep.
But there's this period before your stuff starts to come out and people have a chance to interact and tell those stories about how they were, it helped them deal with their mother's dementia, or that this was the last film they saw with their friend for the friend moved, where you kind of forget, like, you're there, you're doing your job, you're telling your stories, and it's a wonderful, wonderful job that we all have, but it's still a job. Like, you still have days where you're like, you're still tired, or you're,
like, I don't want to do another death screen.
Yeah, or you're on a death screen where like traffic was bad, or whatever. And once you realize how important, and also it's we're often alone in a booth. It's a bubble. It's a very like isolated experience. Not like lonely. It's just an isolated experience.
Peter, he's right here. He's always with me.
Well, there's also Peter. He comes as a true.
Peter, say hi.
Super.
Cool.
That's a good point, Peter. That you can kind of lose track of how much of an impact it will have down the line. So being able to hear those stories is like, oh, that's right. Like, this matters more. Like, it obviously matters to me. I'm working on it. It matters to the writer they wrote it. It matters to the producer. But like, out there in the world, this will have a huge impact on someone. We're not curing cancer.
Well, you know what it is?
Like,
I think also what you're tapping into is, because I think on the other end of it, as a viewer and as a participator, we're all conscious of art being healing. Like, you play a game or you watch a movie, or you take in art or listen to a record, like, go to a museum. All of us unanimously, like, that is healing. That is like, I go to those things to feel better.
Yeah.
But it's when we work on these things, because we are in the like immediate zone of thinking, we are involved, we don't presume that we are going to create that kind of an impact. So it's like, it's not part of your thought process. You just want to do the best you can in that moment. And then you realize, like, oh, right, I'm part of a thing that like someone's going to hear or experience, and like, I hope they resonate with it. And like, if they do, it's such an extraordinary gift to know. Like,
it's also the thing of like, we have so little say in anything.
We don't create this stuff.
So it's like, I hope this doesn't suck. You know.
Well, and I think what's really important about that too is nobody, whether you're a writer, director, artist, anybody, like, nobody goes out to make a bad thing. Everybody wants to make a thing great and wants to put it out into the world and have it be therapeutic for people.
Sure.
And it's so hard to make a thing. Like, it's so hard to make anything. And I'm so enamored by like game developers and show creators and artists and people who like, still to this day, I mean, I'm the kind of guy who will, walk outside and I'll like stand next to a tree and be like, this exists. Like, like I'm that guy. Like, like because I'll stop and be like, this is like, it's crazy that this is a thing, like, but I'll do that with games too. I'll be playing a game or watching a show and it's like, I'll have to stop and put the controller down and be like, people made this thing. Like, like it's so almost like incomprehensible.
Yeah.
And I think even when we're involved in this stuff, we're so enamored by the process and everyone else's involvement that it's like, we really do just feel lucky to be there.
So true.
And so going to Owl House here, one of the things that fascinates me as a performer or human being is like getting good at telling stories in an economical fashion.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you get to the point?
It's succinct, heart of it all.
Exactly, and like drive home. And so Owl House, I watched. I mean, everything about her. Luz?
Yeah.
Luz? Everything about her, everything about her relationship with her mom, everything about the world she is in, everything about the world she wants to be in, and then everything about the world she ends up being in a minute and 43 seconds.
Totally.
2 minutes and 43 seconds.
And in
I
a way
actually
that
clocked it. I was like, what is the moment that it happened? It was 2 minutes.
And in a
43
way
seconds.
that doesn't feel cheap.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like it's not. It
Didn't
doesn't
feel
feel
rushed.
like they're like exposition. Now let's tell the
Right.
story. It's done in a profound and smart way. You're
So
so right.
and it's like I'm so inspired by storytellers who can do that. Like who can get to
cut the
I
fat.
think about that a lot too, like how a movie has 90 to 180 minutes to tell a full story, right? A television show has 23 minutes, 22 minutes, or 11 minutes. A song takes 2.5 to 3 minutes
Right.
to tell a full story from start to finish, and that
That's where I come from.
right? And
Yeah.
the songs that the gut punch ones, I'm like, man, how did they do that?
Well, you
Yeah.
know what it
Yeah.
makes you also really realize, and I think it correlates back to our job too, is like it literally boils down to, in a song, it could be one word. You know, like it doesn't have to even be the whole lyrical
It can
concept.
be a chord.
Yeah.
Like maybe a shift.
Oh,
like
yeah,
in
it could
the
be a
tone.
note
Yeah,
or
a
something.
note. You're like,
And same thing with my cat.
just throwing your cap around.
My cat. And it's the same thing with like, it can be, you can watch this entire show or play an entire video game and like all these big moments will happen, and the one thing that'll affect you the most is like one person's one line delivery that could be like a non-sequitur thing. Like,
Yeah.
I love that stuff. I love one of my favorite things in the My Hero movie. I keep telling everybody, two of my favorite line reads in the entire movie are from unnamed characters in like essentially like group scenarios, and it's like they're two of my favorite. They're just these incredibly perfect reads, and every time I hear them, I'm like, brilliant.
Thank you, Toodlians. Hi, how are you, my friend? I met Toodlies in Australia
Oh, sweet.
at
Hello.
PAX Oz in
Oh,
2018. Was that 2018?
4 times.
Never the full time.
Yeah, he's a streamer out of New Zealand, and
Very cool.
just lovely. Anyway, dear old pal is from a game that I was in with Yuri Lowenthal called Call of the Sea. It's really sweet.
Oh yeah, that's a great game.
It's a sweet game.
Yeah. Him, it was auditions went out in 2018. Recorded somewhere there. Tilda. It's like a one word name.
Almond.
You were in
Almond.
You were the lead.
Of course, I remember you. I loved meeting you. It was really wonderful. What was that? I don't know. I don't know if it's out yet.
No, it's out. It's out. It's out.
Okay.
It came out in like 2019 or something.
Oh,
Anyway.
nice. Yeah. No, and that's the thing is like I love those little indie games that just get right to the heart of it, and the indie shows that get right to the heart of it instead of like exposition, explosion.
Well, it's
and
just-
there's
it's-
a place for that. There is a place
Absolutely.
for that.
Writers who know how to do that are literally like superhuman. It's
Yes.
and I also think that there's something to be said that often those kinds of scenarios happen when the creator has the most control over the thing.
Yes.
You know what I
there's
mean?
not so many cooks in the kitchen.
Because it truly like, and a show like that is a perfect example of like, it's such a distinct voice,
Yeah.
you know, and I think that it's across the board. There's a unanimous thing for any of us, regardless of industry or not, just as people taking in anything, that we are always most deeply affected by like a singular voice. The kind of thing where like you see a show or you play a game or you experience a thing and you're like, only this person could have made this.
Right.
And because there are a lot of things you can see where you're like, this could be made by a few different people in different forms. It would still be great or whatever. But
Yeah.
then there are those things that are so their own statement in every way
Yeah.
that you're like, this one needed to be told and it needed to be told by this person. And often you're like, those are where the lines or moments happen. You're like, oh my God, this is like, it just levels you. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So whoever's out there in the future, those people of the world, we hope you are creating and doing all the things, because regardless of where you are in your life right now, you might be able to change the world.
And also, Alex, I will not fall prey to your childish games. Nah, nah.
I will.
Oh, I have my theory about Ryan's character in Sunnydale.
Oh, you do? Well, no spoilers.
Guys, this is our last poster.
Oh
What?
my gosh. Well, thank you everybody
Wow.
for hanging out. This has
Yeah.
been super, super cool.
What a lovely way to spend a day.
Yeah, well, thank you all for being here.
This is also the first time Armin and I got to hang out in person.
I know, first time I met.
I love that.
Thanks,
Hey,
guys.
vaccines.
He's so much taller than me in person. Like right now. Like,
Yeah, I think all my height's in my legs, so like I'll sit next to people and they're like, "Oh, yeah," and I stand up and they're just like, oh, "Jesus."
I know.
it's like that shot in Hot Shots Part. No, it's not. It might be Naked Gun 23 and a third or whatever.
Top secret.
When they're standing up and it's like she keeps having knees, like her legs
Oh,
are so
yeah.
long. There's
Yeah.
multiple knee shots.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love those movies.
Oh, those are
Hot Shots Part 2 is one of the best ever.
I love it. Thank you,
friends.
everybody,
Yeah,
so much
thank
for
you.
being here. It's nice to see familiar names and new names, and Thank you for hanging out on your
Yes.
Saturday with us.
Yeah, truly
Nice.
kind of you. And give us an excuse to hang out with each other.
Indeed. And if you have art or anything that you want to share, tag us. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, please.
I am on Twitter way too much, but I really love seeing people's artwork and everything else. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you all being here.
Now we're gonna awkwardly sign out.
I know,
I know.
we're gonna.
Yeah, but thank you so much for being here. Thank you. Thank you guys for being
Thank you.
And share your stories. It's
Yeah.
important.
Please.
We need them.
And then we can have jobs to work on.
Right. All right.
Yeah,
Be
hire
safe,
us,
everybody. Happy holidays.
Bye.
Bye.